All right, and we're live. Everybody, welcome back to the Carter Mentality. Got my guest here, Frankie. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, bro? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time to be on this. We're busy men. We're doing a lot. All right, so let's get into it, buddy. All right, so tell the people a little about who you are. Kind of how we connected a little bit, and then go into your story. Don't hold back.
You got it, bro. Yeah, so my name's Frankie. I am from the small island of Staten Island, New York. One of the five
Statin.
boroughs. Yeah, Staten Island. The one of the five boroughs, the forgotten borough. Grew up. It's very small. It's 14 miles long, 11 miles wide. So everybody knows everybody. I grew up in that area and, played sports pretty much my entire life. My dad had me in a boxing ring since I think it was like 4th grade. He had me in there. Played other sports like football, basketball. My problem was that I never pursued them the way that I should have, in the sense that I had a lack of self-confidence growing up and, could have definitely, taken them somewhere where maybe I would have, got scholarships to schools or whatever, won championships, and I never did because I just had lack of self-confidence. Wound up really embracing that lack of self-confidence and taking it the wrong way, in the sense that I was kinda just, like, accepting. I was like, "Oh, well, I'm not good at this," or "They're better than me, so this is just how I am." That's just, it's like, "Must be nice. They're born." I thought it was like, people are just born with the ability to be good at something, and I just wasn't that person. And it was completely false because I had the talent, but I would psych myself out, before I would even start. Like, if I was boxing, before the match would even start, I was already giving the person that I was supposed to fight the credit onto why they're better than me, and there was no reason for that. Um and I think the big reason of that was I didn't appreciate at the time or understand fully that and definitely didn't appreciate the benefit of hard work and, like, putting in that hard work and being uncomfortable and dedicating time. Like, I wasn't really willing to do it, and I wasn't aware of, like, the benefits of it, so that was definitely a part of it. Um, I got a little bit older and started to also, I joined a weightlifting gym when I was, like, 13 years old. That's something that I was always very consistent with. I never stopped starting from 13 years old till now. So as I got a little bit older, I got in decent shape. So I was better, like, growing up, I was, a little bit heavier, I had some fat. I wasn't obese, but I was definitely fat, and you could tell that, my lifestyle choices were bad, and they were. I was sleeping late, staying up late, eating garbage, consuming garbage, like, on just playing video game, like, just everything you could possibly think of, and my body showed it. And it definitely shows my lack of self-confidence and self-love. Fast forward to, like, end of college, I got in better shape because I was consistent in the gym. I had somewhat knowledge. I was learning knowledge of, like, nutrition and, how to eat properly for the most part, and got into better shape than I was. So now I go from being this fat, out of shape kid who would never succeed in anything he did, to now I'm getting in decent shape. I'm turning 21. I'm starting to get attention from people now I'm able to go out and I instead of channeling, like, that momentum of getting a little bit better into something good, like pursuing some type of physical endeavor, I took it the opposite way, and I was like, "Alright, now I'm getting the attention that I never got. I'm gonna go out to the bars, I'm gonna go out to the clubs, I'm gonna be the man," and, just lived off of the opinions of other people, meaning I validated myself if other people liked me. So people were hitting me up to go to the clubs and the bars and wanted to be my quote unquote friend. So I felt good about myself because now finally, I'm important per se. Um Learned pretty quickly after a couple years that that lifestyle wasn't for me, and just felt very empty. Woke up on weekends, woke up Mondays, and I'm like felt like garbage, and realized that I wasn't really going anywhere. I had a job and I worked construction at the time, but like I would just blow all my money. You look at your bank account and you have hits for 250, $350 and with nothing to show for it. And I had to have that honest conversation with myself that this isn't the lifestyle that I want to live. That party lifestyle, it's nothing against it. People who do it, it just wasn't for me. And I had to look 5, 10 years into the future and think like, all right, where do I want to be in 5, 10 years? And is this what I'm doing now going to get me there? Which what I was doing now was working all week and living for the weekend, looking forward to the weekend, and then just that's it, party the weekend, same thing. It was like a merry-go-round. So now I realized, okay, that's not what I want to do. I felt like I had some type of other calling that, and I've always had a passion to help people and to serve people, and I just felt like I could be doing something different. And the problem was that, as I mentioned in the beginning, Staten Island's very small, and everybody knows each other. Everybody does the same things, and if you do anything that is a little bit outside of the norm, it's noticed right away. And I say norm, quote unquote, because um, the norm is just what everybody does. So if you do something different than what everybody's doing, you're noticed and it's critiqued for the most part. So I was worried about, all right, if I stop like going out, I'm gonna lose all my friends and nobody's gonna want to talk to me and this and that. And it held me back for a little bit. And I was nervous of the pushback I would get, or would I have friends, or who's still gonna be around. And then, I started doing CrossFit in, like, 2018, and I slowly started pulling myself out of that party scene. So, like, instead of going out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe I would only go out Saturday, and, like, Friday, I'd stay home so that I could go to the gym in the morning and feel good. So, because I started to learn that, like, the way you sleep, the way you eat, if you're drinking, this affects your performance, and just started to really appreciate and enjoy feeling good and like saving money. And now I'm at the gym in the morning and like I feel good in the gym, and you're seeing progress. I'm started like really seeing a lot of progress. And then it just became like easier. I was just saying no, 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 like I'm not going out. It turned from maybe going out one night a week to none at all, or once a month. Now it's like never, on occasions only. And then fast forward to 2020. This is a common story for everybody. Gyms closed down because of COVID, and I'm like, this became like my therapy. The gym was like really, I was very much into it, very passionate about it, and it was taken away from me. So what did I do? I was like, they can't take away the outside, so I could just go out and run. And I started to run. Um, Learned very quickly it's more than just going out for a run, and you know had to really humble myself and learn the ins and outs of running. And since then, I've been very much in the endurance space, and we could go down that path at some point. But yeah, so from that I just felt it was a good time to share my journey on social media. So at the time, my Instagram followers were mostly people that, I mean, pretty all people that I've known in some way, shape, or form growing up through Staten Island or school, whatever. So I was nervous to post on social media because like it's different. So I went on TikTok and I started sharing things on TikTok because nobody really followed me from there. No one knew I had a TikTok. And I posted a couple of videos like highlighting how I changed my lifestyle, and it took traction, a couple of videos, and before you know it, I'm growing on social media. I'm growing on TikTok. They're translating over to Instagram. They're following me there, messaging me, telling me that I've impacted them. Now, at this time, I'm pretty much by myself. I lost a ton of friends that I thought were my friends because I was more into fitness and it they started to criticize when I would post on social media anything fitness related and make fun of me and what group chats I wound up in. And it really affected me at first. It bothered me a lot. And I was like very hesitant to put anything out there until I started getting messages from people I did not even know from across the country, other parts of the world, telling me that they somehow related to my story or I somehow helped them. And I was like, okay, well, that's my reason. Now I could get 20 negative messages, and that one message of someone saying that they could that I impacted them is it weighs outweighs all of that. So that's pretty much the start of it. I'm sorry for talking a lot, but just wanted to give you that timeline of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, so you could take it wherever you want from here.
Well, no, I think it's great because I was somebody who shares a lot of the same story. Was in a relationship, and that relationship was built around fitness and stuff like that. I've always been an athlete my whole life, and I wrestled, and I was a jiu-jitsu athlete, and I competed on high levels for jiu-jitsu, and always ran, but had some injuries. I suffered 2 ACL reconstructions, um, very very devastating injuries, and pretty much sat back and looked at also with my career aspect of like where do I go from here? Do I keep competing at this level and run the risk of forever not being able to not even do my career, or athlete in general is gone? Um, and so I kind of started diving into running, and then ultimately that relationship ended up ending, and I kind of just went from a very high structured mentality to down, just to the gutter, and um, just drank every night and was just getting demolished at bars, and like you said, $200-300 bar tabs. And there was there was like a sense of gratification, almost, like you get that sense of gratification. I've talked about this in other episodes before. You have the people who polish your glass, and then you got the people who fill your glass, and as much as too, all those people we were with out at these bars, they're glass polishers. Like they're like, oh
Yes.
man, Frankie, you're such a great fucking dude, man. Like, but the minute you blow your tire in the middle of Staten Island, you need someone to help you, and you call them, they're like, I can't do it, man. I'm busy, and it's like you're not even a friend,
Yeah, man.
and so it's a lot like you. I took this, and I met the girl who I'm with now, Michelle. Like I've talked about her a lot in podcasts, and I met her on a night that I got very drunk, but I was like, I had told myself it's a sadistic way to think about it, but I was like, this last night, like we're either getting help or we're just going cold turkey tonight. And it was a lot. Like there was for like a certain amount of time afterwards, like I kept going because I was like scared to leave that space because I felt like I had all these people around me, and I was just like someone who didn't ever care what other people thought. Versus now, I'm sitting in this space of like, man, what if he doesn't call me back? Like, is he gonna still be friends with me? And I was like, I finally got to a point where I threw it all on the table, and I was like, what the fuck? Like I looked in the mirror and I said, here's this person who's broken, empty, gets gratification in other places of like alcohol and stuff like that. So it's empty gratification, who always was gifted athletically and talented, but you've thrown it all by the wayside because you find more gratification in a bottle. My relationships were shit. People didn't really want to be around me. My relationship with just even my parents on a the level of the relationship with your parents was terrible. And so it came to a point where I was like, shit's got to change. And I, kind of like you, I just went and I strapped on my shoes and I said, all right, well, we're going to go run 5 miles. And about 3.5 in, I was like, yeah, I don't know if we're going to make five,
Yeah.
so I got humbled. And then I was just like, the next day, it was another three and another three and another three. And it was just like, I sat back and I was like, I've always had to do run in some aspect for athletics or fitness. And I never thought I'd love it in the way that I love it now. Like it has became an identity of me. And a lot like you, like I shifted that from not going out like to nothing anymore because now it's, you're saving you money. The most we spend a month is because we're getting another watch, we're getting shoes, or we're
Yeah.
buying shorts. Like we're not dropping $300 on Michelob Ultras. We're dropping $300 on carbon plated run shoes for a marathon.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is it? And that $300 you drop on the shoes is going to last you a lot longer than the 30-second card swipe that you got at the bar. You know, and again, there's so much similarities in our stories. Like I realized real quick how big my circle got from all those people at the bar to really how quick I was back to a very small circle. And then it's like, it was beautiful because like the people that were in my small circle, it was almost like there was a level of like, I didn't want to say, hey, like things don't look good. But when I realized it myself, people came out and they're like, I'm glad you realized it because it was getting bad, you know? And a lot like you, I'm not as big as you on Instagram. I have a following, and Myrtle Beach is a lot like, and Myrtle Beach and Greenville are a lot like Staten Island. Like they're small and people know each other, you know. And so I've gotten the messages from people that are like, this what you're doing is making a difference, or that podcast you put out there helped me get off my ass and go run 500 feet down the road, and that was the step, that was the start. And this was a calling to help people, and it's a lot like you said too. Is like the self conscious part kicked in, like the imposter syndrome kicked in, and I was like, am I me? Like the shit that I was doing, am I really going to be able to help somebody? Like, am I someone they want to learn from? Um, but I think when I shifted that mindset from, almost kind of some of us in that position, we have the victim mentality. When we shift from that victim mentality to realize, no, like we're strong, confident men that have a lot to offer. When you make that transition over, um, it's beautiful because you realize you don't truly give a fuck what people think about you. You don't care what negative Nancy's have to say. You know that there's someone out there, there's someone on their phone, on the shitter or on the couch or at the dinner table that's going to see Frankie's, running the track, and they're going to be like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And I tell myself that there's, this podcast, when I started it, I had no intention or belief it was going to blow up like it did. And dude, it's skyrocketed. Like I didn't realize just putting myself behind a microphone and just shooting the real shit out there was going to latch on to people. And when it did, like I started getting these messages, like even people at work that at the beginning stages of this podcast were listening to me would come up to me at work. And like, these are people that are probably 50-50 on the fence with me, are like, I don't really know. But they're like, dude, that meant everything. Like that helped me. I took that and I was listening to it in the gym. Like there was a girl at work, she was getting ready to take a national board test. And she listened to my podcast before and she was like, it fired me up to go in there. And she was like, thank you for being you. And it's like you said, that one message outweighs everything, because it's like we are put on this earth. And, I'm a very religious person, is I was put on this earth by God to be a warrior. But our warriorship comes from my career and what I do for running, like running ultra marathons and stuff like that. Like that's how I'm a warrior for him. But also we're warriors because we're selfless warriors, as in, we're here to help people. I care more about people sometimes than I find myself caring about my own personal well-being, because I want people to succeed. And we live in such a weak society right now, such a weak society that just men, like this isn't a men versus woman thing, but to take women out of the occasion, just men right now, if you look at the demographic of men, they are broken. And this is a time right now where people like you and I are able to make such a difference. And it's what's needed, because I think, I was talking to a friend about this the other day. As I said, I think a lot of it is people don't realize how broken things are until they find themselves at that fork in the road.
Yeah. Couple things touching on, I talk about this with my friends. Everybody undervalues their own story. They don't think it's like it's like a big deal or anything. But there's someone somewhere out there that could relate to what your story is. And I think that's when you realize that, it's very powerful.
Hmm.
Um, Another thing you were talking about, your how your circle went from so big to so small. I've actually mentioned this on a couple of podcasts I was on recently. Um, so last year I was at a run club event and I met this kid. He comes over to me and he says, he's like, "You changed my life." And I'm like, "Whoa." Like, shook his hand, introduced myself. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Those videos of you, like, changing your lifestyle and not going out anymore, that's where I'm at." He's like, "I'm at the point now, though, where I'm in the initial steps where I lost all my friends, and I'm alone, and I'm constantly tempted to go back to that lifestyle because I don't wanna be alone." And I told him, I was like, "This is the time, this is the most important part of your journey is being alone for a little bit because you're gonna learn how to be alone, you're gonna learn about yourself, you're gonna learn what you want in life, and it will really build you up to the person you're supposed to be, and then organically, it'll bring you around like-minded people in your circle." Like, I was alone for a while. Dude, everyone's going out on Friday nights, Saturday nights. I'm going to bed early to go to the gym in the morning. Like, you know how many times I sat there thinking, like, "Am I doing something wrong? Like, should I be out there with them?" But I stuck it through, and now I'm at the point too where I don't need anybody, I'm not begging for people around. The people who are around are because they bring value to my life and I want them there, but I'm not someone who just needs to have someone, and that's
Right.
because of that time I spent on my own and really got to know who I was.
I think the biggest thing too is like where and I'm sure you've done it. You develop that ability to find peace and loneliness when you're out on the street at 4 o'clock in the morning putting in miles,
Oh, yeah, man,
or you're
that's
in the gym at 4:30 in the morning by yourself. Like when you realize you make that flip of I'm not sleeping till 8. I'm up at 4 now. You're up 4 hours early before anybody probably resembly thinks about getting up, and you've already worked out, showered, and started your day. Like you realize how quick you're like, well, I've got to get used to doing this by myself because I don't know how many people I'm going to drag out. And it's like running. Like everyone says, I see these posts and they're so corny to me, dude. It's like, go find people to run with. And I'm like, I don't really know how many people want to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and run, 8 miles with me. So I guess I'm just gonna have to do this by myself. Um, but when I did that, I was like, all right, well, yeah, no, I'm completely okay with being alone. And I think it transitions into a lot because, like the way me and Michelle's even simplistic communication style of, we don't constantly have to talk to each other every day. We make time to talk to each other, because she's the director for men's and women's nutrition, or for men's and women's nutrition for men's and women's basketball at Clemson. Like
Oh,
she's
amazing.
nonstop at work. Now it's his peak basketball season. She's on the road. She travels 100 games a year. Um, but she works. She doesn't miss a day of working out. And on top of that, she's doing her whole work day. And it's not like an 8 hour day. It's a 12, 13, 14, sometimes 15 hour day. Um, and she's still making time to get a run in and stuff like that. Now she doesn't run distance like you and I do. She's an interval runner, but it's still she's minimum. She's getting 2 workouts in a day, and that's a lot more than most people are even thinking about doing. But she spends a lot of time by herself too, and I think when you make that flip and realize how important being alone is to really achieve what you want to achieve and build what you want to build, you really realize you don't need every Tom, Dick, and Harry around you because what are they going to bring? It's the best analogy I give is on a ship, on a vessel ship. Everyone has a role and responsibility, but everyone that gets put on that ship for a role and responsibility. No one's just on the ship to be on the ship. Like when I bring people into my life, and if it's organically or I choose to go after like someone like you, developing a friendship with you and seeking that out with you, I know it's because that guy's got something to offer. We're
Yeah.
gonna piggyback off of each other in healthy ways. Like I'm not just looking to be a part of the quote unquote. And you'll agree with this because I think this is where we were kind of talking about Instagram versus doers and just influencers. I'm not a part of the Frankie fan club.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we're doing the same things together. We're developing an organic friendship because we're doing the same things. Like I'm not a heart on your post. I'm hearting that post because I'm like, no, I actually know you're out doing the work. So
Ye
I think that's a huge thing. So let's just kind of talk a little bit about that. Is starting your transition into social media. I'm sure you probably went through that imposter syndrome and stuff like that of like, do I really, am I really someone that should be posting on social media and stuff like that? And how did you really find the navigation of knowing you're helping people and keeping that mindset of helping people versus just being an influencer?
I hate that word so much, the
I do too, though.
influencer. I like,
Really do.
people, like, have called me that, whether they were mocking there's some people who've mocked me and called me an influencer, and then there's people who just, like, say, like, "Oh, you're an influencer," and I'm like, "No, I'm not." And, like, I recently, like 2 days ago, dude messaged me and, like, thanked me for the messages I put out and everything, and I'm like, "I I'm just a regular dude," like, and he's like, "Yeah, but you actually respond to your followers, like, regardless of whether you think you're a regular dude, you have 300,000 plus followers, people don't respond, and you take the time to answer, and for the most part, I do. If it's a genuine message I see in my box, I answer it, and I've formed friendships with people like yourself, and I'm like, I'm just a regular dude. I'm not anything crazy. I just try to put a good message out there, and you guys appreciate it. Yeah, so, uh I never had the idea of being an influencer. I hate it. I hate that word so much because it's just, when you think of that word, you just think of someone who's not genuine for the most part. Like, I get the meaning of the word, like an influencer is someone who has an influence on people, but it's not always used, like, genuinely. It's a lot of times to pad the pockets of people. There's people out there who just hop from brand to brand because that's where the most money is. It doesn't necessarily align with what they believe in. They just will promote it, and then the next month they're with a different brand, and then the next month they're with a different one, and it's like, all right, how am I gonna take this person's word? They've been with how many different brands? They told me this was their favorite product a week ago. Now this one's their favorite product because they signed with this company. It just never that never was my goal. Still isn't. I don't really want that title at all. I just put my message out there, my story, my lifestyle change, and how I was as my mindset as a little kid, younger kid, to now, and people related to it, and it took traction and has brought me places that I've never imagined, and to work with companies that I've never imagined to work with either. But I won't just go with any company. It has to be a company that I align with, that the message is there, and I actually enjoy the products. Like, for the most part, every company that I've worked with has been for a long period of time, and it's because I'm just not someone who's just looking for the next big company to sign a deal with. It's gotta be something that aligns with my message, aligns with my lifestyle, and then it works. So, when that's not your motive, when that financial aspect isn't your, like, 100% motive, people could take your word, and they can understand that you're genuine because you're not looking to make a buck. And people tell me all the time how much I could really monetize social media, and maybe I can. I don't really care to. Like, obviously, if you make money from it, it's nice, but do I really wanna take it any further? I really don't. I enjoy what I do. That takes the fun out of it, that takes the genuine, aspect out of your message, and I just wanna keep it how it is. Keep putting my message out there, and if it helps people, then I'm doing my job.
That's 100% right. Like I push content out for a message. I actually had a company reach out to me and they were like, we'll pay you this amount of money and we'll give you a discount on these products. We just want you to review the product, test the product, see how you like it, yada yada yada. And I was, at the time I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. It's my first one I've ever had. And I got the product, I sampled it, and I was like, this is horrible. Like, what the fuck is this? And I was like, no, I'm not interested. And, but, part of me kind of sat back and thought about it. I was like, if I would have done that, is that shifting into the influencer world? Because I'm like, I'm here to, I want to leave this world better than I found it. I want to make a difference on somebody because I think where the shift in tide is people like you and I and the ones in our circles, we're disciplined. We're not motivated, we're disciplined. But we have the ability to motivate people who are not disciplined in hopes of them shifting to be able to learn discipline through motivation. Um, and so I think where the word influencer really gets disconstrued is they think that you and I are trying to be like and I tread this word lightly because guys like Chad Wright and stuff like that, like they're and Jesse Eisler, they're business entrepreneurs, but like they are life coaches as well. They've reached
Mhm.
that pinnacle of being able to give those life speeches. And don't get me wrong, like I've had people ask, will you come and speak to my real estate team and stuff like that and fire us up? And I'm like, I'm not coming to fire you up. I'm coming to drop some stuff on you that's gonna help change your life.
Yeah.
Like I'm not running past your real estate office at 6:30 in the morning at mile number 12 because I'm looking to motivate your life or fire you up. No, I'm doing this because this is what I love to do, but this is every day is earned, and I don't think enough people realize that every day is earned. And it all transitions into everything is because I won't name names. I don't bash people. I only speak facts, but there's influencers out there in our shape and form of running that are going to these conferences and stuff like that, and they're walking in the door, and people are just running to them like they're celebrity icons. And I'm like, if you or and I were to walk through the door, like people are going to come and see you because they've seen you, but I'm willing to bet people are probably not going to come and see me because I only have like a couple thousand followers. But perfect example. I was talking to my buddy. I said, man, I said when TikTok came out, I had about 5,000 followers on TikTok. I said, and then I ended up getting, I got old and I deleted it. I was like, but I could have kept my TikTok and kept that thing rolling. I said, I'd
Yeah.
probably have a couple 100,000, maybe a million right now. I said, but I said, what does that have to do? I'm not looking to make a dollar off of social media. I push content out because there's somebody like we talked about. There's somebody on the couch that's scrolling through Instagram Reels. It's gonna see my reel or your reel, and they're gonna be like fuck, it's possible, man. Like I can do this, And we have our careers. I don't think you and I give a shit, and it's clear to make a dollar off of Instagram. Like if Instagram never sent me a paycheck, I'm completely okay, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But
Um, you're definitely dude, you're definitely right about that, like, um, you know that there's obviously people out there that just I mean, TikTok, like, for you I don't even use TikTok anymore. It's just it's not like, it could get your message out there, it has its purpose, but, like, anybody could just blow up on TikTok. It's very easy to, like, a video goes viral and you get, like, hundreds of thousands of followers from like one viral video, but like it's very easy. I stopped using that too. And I mean, I don't really concern myself with people who aren't genuine in their message. The same thing as you. Like I don't bash anybody. I just don't, I don't follow anybody who's not really a doer. Because they help me too. People who I see that I know or know of. I mean, you mentioned Chad Wright, like you could call him an influencer, right? Technically, he's on social media, he's got an influence on people, but that's a guy that gets after it. He does it, he's the real deal. Those
right,
are the people that I follow, and that's the way that they kind of show me and motivate me is what I aim to do for some people. And I hope that's the impact that I do make, whether I get one per at this point, I stopped, like it's very easy to get caught up in analytics and numbers on this social media stuff and compare yourself to different people who maybe have better engagement. At this point, it's like, if my message gets to 10 people and it's the right people, then that's really all I care about, you know?
It's kind of funny because I remember one of our conversations we were having, and I was talking about this today with my buddy. He was asking me like, "What's this algorithm thing?" And I was like, "Dude, I don't have any idea." I was like,
Mm.
"I don't understand what any of that means." But I know, remember we were talking about that, and I had posted a reel, and the only like that I had for like 12 hours was just you. And I was like, "Well, I guess the algorithm isn't on my side today." And but it's like I don't know what any, and he was like, and my buddy was like, so if I just push a bunch of content out and keep posting and posting and posting, he's like, inevitably something's going to happen. And I said, if you're doing it that way, you're doing it because, I said, the people that are posting like every 20 minutes, they're doing it because their income relies on it.
Yeah,
I was like, I can post something and then go 3 or 4 days and not post anything and then post something else. I was like, and probably still get a bunch of likes on it. And I'm like, cool, I got likes on it. I said, or I could get 5 likes on it. It is what it is. But those 5 people are affected and changed by it.
yeah.
So
The
I'm sleeping good at night.
Yeah, the people too who post like that every 20 minutes or whatever, every hour, 5 times a day, they do it for those numbers because it gets more reach and they maybe get more followers, but, like, you're not getting the qua like, you who cares about the quantity? You want the quality, you know? You want
Right.
people that are actually gonna be engaging with your stuff, and the algorithm is dude, it's not any like, you look at the CEO of Instagram's comments on his pictures, there's 1,000 creators saying, "Bring back organic reach." It's like, you have to pay for everything now that you want. I remember last year, a little before this time, my any post that I did on average would reach like 30,000 followers. Now they cut it in half. It doesn't reach as much as it does unless you are willing to pay for it. And there's people who do pay for it and then pay for likes. And it's just when you start getting caught up in all that, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And it's not anything that I'm trying to do.
So I'll never forget when they came out with the verified check. Um,
Yeah.
so when they started coming out with that, like I was, and I'm smart with technology, but when it comes to like the ins and outs of social media, I have no idea. And one of the people on staff at Clemson, she had a check, and I was like, oh well, she's a published author, stuff like that makes sense. And she like humbly, honestly looked at me, and was like, no, she's like, no, I pay for this, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, you can pay for that. And then I go and like backdoor it through my Instagram and realize that like $15 a month you could pay for your blue check. And I was like, what happened to the days of like, and it's just kind of like when I talk about like hard work, like what happened to the days of like, if you sat down and you're like, no, social media is what I want to do. What happened to the days of like grinding of, your
No.
one life
Yeah.
days? And now you could just pay for anything. You could pay to reach 30,000 people.
Yeah, yeah. I did that verified, for a month only because I constantly have fake accounts made of me, and I did it in hopes that because 'cause they're like, "Oh, it stops the fake accounts, whatever." I did it, and I still had people making fake accounts of me, and then I would reach out to the support, and there was no support, and I'm like, "Okay, so I don't need this, clearly, they're still gonna make fake accounts of me, so it is what it is."
Yeah.
But there's people that do it because that blue check, signifies that you're, you know, maybe famous, like
Yeah.
but like you said, what happened to the days where you earn that I mean, it's not a big deal, like, we make it sound like it's just the blue check, but, like,
Yeah.
when you earn that blue check, the people who what about the people who really earned that blue check and, like, they did something to become some type of well-known name that they are verified because of their status? I mean, now anybody can have a blue check, it's crazy.
It is. And it's like, piggybacking off that real quick, is like the Tim Grovers and the Rich Rolls and all that, like, two well-known people, the Chad Wrights and stuff like that, Sally McRae's that are doing it. Like they earned their blue check, and it's three houses down. My boy's got an Instagram. He's like, yeah, I got a blue check, and I'm like, what do you? I play Halo all day. What? You know, like okay.
Yeah.
So it's crazy, but All right, so let's kind of shift from social media. Let's kind of get into the nitty gritty of us as runners. So what you're prepping for a marathon? You're getting ready for what? Houston?
Yeah, I'm actually officially as of today. I did my last marathon workout. I'm in the taper now.
Okay. So how? Let's kind of go into a little bit about recovery and stuff like that. So what are kind of your different things that you do for recovery? Like, what are some methods you do? Do you, real quick, do you track? This is for the listeners. This isn't a paid partnership here, but do you have a Whoop or anything like that you use?
I used to have do I have it right here? I used the Whoop for a year, and then I use Garmin, my Phoenix 7 Solar I have, and I was wearing the Whoop and, it was giving me actually, Garmin gave me more. I don't know what Whoop's done since, but it's given me more detailed data than the Whoop did. So I'm like, "Alright, I'm wearing 2 gadgets on my wrist, like, I don't need both of these because the Garmin tells me everything I need to know, and it's more specific to running. So, yeah, I track everything with, Garmin.
Really?
Okay. So I started when the Whoop kind of like came out. I used the Whoop 3.0, and it was not as in depth as now. The 4.0 now, I didn't like it because as big as it was, it was a lot more. The 3.0 was a lot more bulky.
Yeah,
Um, the 4.0 is smaller, but the analytics on the 3.0 were not as in depth as the 4.0. And like when I had the 3.0, my HRV was always like consistently in the yellow. And it was my recoveries in the yellow, my HRVs were low, and I was like, "There's no way." And then you get like the 4.0, and you see like the new modernized technology, and
mhm,
everything's more increased now, and it's more real life understanding is what I call it because now you have the your sleep analytics, you get your respiratory rate, your HRV, all that stuff. So and your skin temperature. So the deeper health side of things when Whoop came out on the 4.0 is better in my opinion. So yeah, I have a uh, Apple that I'm getting ready to transition to Garmin though, but I wear my run watch and then I got my Whoop, but we kind of got on the rabbit hole on that one. But
yeah, yeah, deep in the rabbit hole.
the
But,
right, recovery though, like what are some major things that you try to do recovery wise?
yeah, so recovery's been the absolute key for this marathon prep, and I learned that unfortunately through, bad habits in the past of and then leading to an injury. I had a stress fracture. I had to pull out of the New York City Marathon 2 weeks before the marathon. Like it sucked so bad. It was actually probably at this point that I am with Houston. I'm about 2.5 weeks out. It was about the same for New York. Um, and that was because I was just trying to do too much all at once. I had the mentality like I'll sleep when I'm dead. Um, you know, the sacrificing sleep to get that extra run in. I mean that run in and that lift. Like there's a lot that I've learned that you need to prioritize. So this prep has been knock on wood so far. I mean, made it to the taper healthy. This prep so far has been experimenting with different means of recovery. So the most important things that I've done that I feel that and especially, like, the changes that I've made that I feel definitely helped me stay healthy throughout this entire prep. First off, I assure that I get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every single night. Obviously, with work and things like that, it's not always possible. However, for the most part, most nights, I got 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and that has been game changer because I'm allowing my body to recover. I'm not, not getting through I'm not getting through those cycles of sleep, which are important. Another thing is I realized that you can't do too much, especially in a marathon prep. I know the whole hybrid athlete, and I do call myself a hybrid athlete. But the whole thing is popular where you can go to the gym and deadlift 500 pounds and then go out and run a marathon. Like yeah, that's cool and all, but not sustainable, and I learned because that's what I was doing, and what happened, it caught up to me, and I got injured, and I was sidelined for 2 months, so now I've been in marathon prep, it's been, like, 16 weeks now, so what I did that I found worked for me was you kinda have to prioritize what you're training for, so my priority has been to run fast for this marathon, so I need to prioritize running and pull back a little bit on lifting, so I was doing 3 days a week of lifting, and that's it. I would do push pull legs. My leg days are very runner specific. I actually just filmed a YouTube video on that. It should be dropping soon. All my single leg, I do all single leg lifts now just to simulate running because running is a single leg sport. So that's been key because running releases so much cortisol in your body and stress. Now add on, so, like, let's say it's right here, so then that's your stress from running. Now you have life, then you add in more lifting, so you're bringing up your stress very unnecessarily if you're just lifting 5, 6 days a week, going heavy and as hard as you possibly can every single time. So that's been key. That definitely paid off because I was not overstressing my body. My body was able to recover from my runs, and it helped out a lot.
So let me
Another
piggyback off that real quick. I didn't mean to
Yeah,
cut you off. Um, so one of the great things about this is, were you using the 4.0 or the 3.0?
I had the 3, I had the first one.
So the 4.0, they came out with the stress level monitor. And that was like, that has been one of the biggest insights. I kind of laugh is, I was just sitting here thinking about this, is like, as nerd out as I do when it comes to body recovery and all that, I wish if I nerded out a little bit more in social media, maybe have a stronger following. But no, like I've broken down the stress monitor to where it's like, when I do, so you talk about your stress fracture. So I'll get into a little thing real quick too. Is I was getting prepped for a race and was pretty sure, like, I ran like a little Thanksgiving 5K with my mom. It was her first race in a while, and then afterwards, like every run after that, my left calf just started killing me. I don't know what it was. And then I coupled, like, probably 3 to 4 days later, I ran 12 miles, easy, nice little, 9.5 minute pace. And afterwards, like, my left leg kept giving out. And I was like, what in the world is this? Well, didn't go to the doctor, pretty much kind of self diagnosed myself. But, when you're an athlete, you know your body as well, you can pretty much tell. And when it comes to especially tears of anything, I'm well oriented with that because that's after my ACL. I'm pretty sure I had a partial tear in my left calf.
Oh, shit.
Um, and I was just an idiot about it. Was like, well, it is what it is. Like, kind of kept telling myself, well, if I never got diagnosed by a doctor, I'm just gonna keep going. But I was like, let me not run so double digits. So I'll kind of taper. But then I'm like, running 8 miles, and then my calf's killing me afterwards. I'm like stretching it like crazy, and then every morning I wake up, it's like a ball. So I'm doing like stem work and stuff like that. Well, what I'm getting at with the whoop is like every day, not only, like you said, stress, cortisol, my stress level is elevated, but then I'm waking up and it's saying like your heart rate, your baseline heart rate was elevated. So my normal sitting heart rate is like 40, 39, 40-ish, sometimes 42, right? I'm sleeping at night, my heart rate's like 55, 60, sometimes 65. And I'm like, what in the world is, well, what it is my leg is cramping at night, and it's like my whole body's just not being able to get comfortable, nothing like that. Like I was having to start eating like Advil and stuff like that, like Ann says, to try and release that pain. And I'm like, I don't put that stuff in my body if I don't have to,
Yeah.
and it's transversing into my shins are killing me and stuff like that. I'm like, what is it? So I start some stem work on this calf, and it releases it and all that, and it's good, and now it's good to go. Well, since then, I started my prep because I'm running a marathon in March. So I started my prep, this week, of all that. So I started the week with some lactate threshold and stuff like that, and just kind of getting a baseline to go from there to really deep formulate my training plan. And I was like, all right, well, today I was just going to do a 6 mile easy run. And I was probably, I think you saw my video on Instagram, I was like 4.5 in, and I was like, or 2.5 in, I was like, oh, this is miserable. Like,
Yeah.
my legs were just trashed. And I go and I look at my whoop and I kind of do a little bit of analyzing, and I come to find, I mean, my recovery like 2 days before and then the day before, my recovery is 38 and then 40%. And then today, my recovery is 71%. But, you know, I'm trying to like explain this to a couple people that asked me. They sent me some messages about it. And I'm like, if you don't have consistent leading up, and then you have like a 38% recovery, 42% recovery, then you have 98% recovery, your body is still very much stuck in the 30s and 40s because health wise, heart health, yeah, your HRV was great, your sleep was good, but your body's not fully rested. When you have consistence of a color, that's where you know your baseline sitting at.
Yeah.
And you said about your sleep, dude, I'm like somebody who's like 6.5, 5, 6.5 hours of sleep is like where I was functioning at. And like ever since my calf, I'm like, and I even said this, like, I got to play, vulnerability of a hypocrite here. Like, I sat on my podcast and was like, I don't understand how people sleep 8 hours a night. Like, I can't do it. And I've had to force myself to start sleeping 8 hours a night. And mentally, it's kind of taking a toll on me because my body is not used to that. My body's used to being up at 4:30 in the morning, running by 5, or up at 4, running by 4:30, 4:45,
Yeah.
and having to make that transition to getting to work and then going on my runs or on my days off, like sleeping till like 6:30, and then getting up and going for my runs and being okay with it. Like, we talked before about negotiating with yourself. And
Mhm.
earlier this week, like I negotiated with myself. I was like, man, I should probably lay in bed a little bit longer. And then I got up and I tried to start running by like 10:30. And it was 5 miles was a act of Congress, a damn act of Congress. And I was like, that's because I negotiated with myself. But it's like the recovery aspect is so important because I don't think people, Nick Baird, he just ran the California Marathon. Like, I think he pretty much cut all of his weight training out for that whole
Mhm.
marathon prep.
Yeah,
And
and it's important.
you have to, and it's single leg stuff is important. My weight training is a lot of I do upper body. I maintain my upper body because posture wise, I think when you're running, if you don't have a strong upper body, you're going to hunch over more. You put a lot of stress on your lower back. So I maintain, I try to keep that chest work, shoulder work, and stuff like that to be able to keep that posture upright. Um, a lot of RDLs, a lot of split squats, a lot of elevated squats, like goblet squats and stuff like that. My days of squatting 315 or pulling 405, those days are over. Like
Yeah, there's no point, it's not necessary.
it's
I
not. It's not. I think if
it's
you have a strong
just
core,
gonna get hurt.
yeah, a strong core and strong lower body, and I think a lot of runners get misconstrued as like you have to put weight on it. Like, but I'll go on record and say your body weight is probably going to be the most to accentuate those eccentric muscles and those intrinsic muscles for you. So a lot of people get construed that they think you have to weight themselves down with kettlebells or barbells and stuff like that. I'm like, if you do a body weight routine and you have a strong core, you have a strong foundation as a runner.
Yeah, yeah. I go in there, I still hit my chest, my back, buys, tries, all that, like, there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm not bodybuilding. I'm not in there for hours, I'm not over stressing myself, like, it's not once I'm done with this marathon and I take a couple weeks off running, like, I'm gonna go hard again in the gym, and like, in my off seasons from running, I'm going hard in the gym. Like, this past summer, I was running anywhere from 15 to 30 miles a week, just based on how I felt. If I felt like it, I ran more. If I didn't, I ran less. And I was going hard in the gym as well because my runs weren't. I was in an off season. I was just training for fun. But when you're in a prep, you got to prioritize whatever it is that you're training for. And now going off that, another important thing that I've incorporated, paid attention to in this prep is normally when I'd run, I would intuitively eat and kind of just eat based off feel. Um, I've actually been steadily tracking everything that I eat. So the point of that, not to keep myself in some type of deficit or being controlling like that. I mostly pay attention to my protein intake, and I make sure that I hit my protein goal every single day, and I feel that that definitely played a big part of allowing my body to recover from everything that it does. I never did that when I was in a prep. The only time I've done that is when I bodybuild or did CrossFit, I was paying attention to, like, my calorie intake, but that was more for aesthetics. I do it now because I wanna make sure I'm getting the proper amount of what I need, and protein is essential, for recovery.
That's huge. So actually, funny enough, you posted your macros the other. We actually have the same macros for each other. I same amount that you do. How tall are you?
5'9".
Oh wow, I'm 6'4". I would.
Damn,
Yeah. So
you
it's
might be
crazy.
you might be
Huh?
eating in a deficit, my friend.
Yeah. Well, so it's me and Michelle were talking, and when I was bulking, I went through a strong bulk. And so when I left jiu-jitsu and all that, I couldn't for the life of me could not break 210. Like would go on a bulk and was probably running, dude, I dropped my running down to like 10 miles a week. Like I was running 2 5 mile days and just to try and put on as much muscle as I could to not break the thing. I couldn't break 210. Um, and I kind of went on a clean but dirty bulk. I kind of said, all right, I'm not going to be super, super strict except for protein and fats. I don't want to take in a bunch of garbage fats and garbage proteins, but like carbs are kind of the free game. Like I'm going to just jack it. Now I walk around. I got to the highest I got was at 245, like cocked. And, when I started getting probably 6 months ago, when I really ramped up my mileage, after all my injury and all that is then when I decided to kind of walk away from tracking really hard because someone as a wrestler, like wrestlers suffer a lot from body dysmorphia, and that's me a huge and I think even somebody as athletes just in general, like I'm sure you've probably had bouts of it as well. Um, and body dysmorphia is something that I was like really starting to get into my head, so I was like I don't really know if I should track as hard. um, but you might be right. Like, so we were kind of talking, and I was like, "Am I in a deficit?" And she was like, "I don't know if you're in a deficit. I take 200 grams of protein a day. So I weigh about 220, but I try to supplement. I supplement those last 20 grams of what would be protein, and I repurpose it into carbohydrates. But repurpose those carbohydrates into those extra 20 grams of protein. I repurpose it into carbohydrates that carry protein, so pastas and stuff like that. I'll eat my carbs are probably anywhere between 350 400 is a lot of rice. And then like those what would be extra protein, I make sure I'm trying to get in a lot of pastas. I keep my fats on the lower side. I did a lot of the fat adapted diets, like Goggins and stuff like that, Cam Hanes and all those guys. They eat straight fat adapted diets. Joe Rogan loves a fat adapted
Yeah,
diet,
carnivore
carnivore.
diet.
And dude, I couldn't do it. Like my joints hurt. I was like running long mileage, and I was just like, I have nothing to eat on. Like I can't down a jerky bar while I'm on a 20-mile run. Like it's not going to
Yeah,
satisfy me,
yeah.
So so there was a lot of that, but no, I think a lot of people downplay the benefits of nutrition and what it does for recovery. And so what is like a day for a long run pre long run look for you? So for me, it's a lot of carbohydrate intake, water intake, electrolytes, and I'm off my feet.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm doing today. I'm gonna eat some dinner, but prior to it, the night before, I usually try to prep and carb load a little bit, not like a race carb load, but I'll practice like my pre-run meal, see what works, what doesn't work. Um, Go to sleep, wake up about like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours before I plan to go out, have my coffee, sourdough bread, peanut butter, honey, um,
Staple,
what staple
staple in
the
the diet.
best, staple, the best, some maybe a rice cake or 2, because that's usually what I have before I race, and I've practiced this so many times that I know it doesn't affect my stomach. Give myself about 40 minutes or so to just digest. I'll work on some mobility. I'll start warming up, getting dressed, and then I'm out there and I'm running. And then for the remainder of the day after I run, like today, I'm off my feet. There's absolutely no gym involved whatsoever. I'm not going to the gym and lifting. Um, Most of the time, I'll go straight to the gym, though, after the run to use the steam room, that loosens up my muscles because everything's all tight after you run. Yeah, for the rest of the day, I'll use my compression boots, I'll do some mobility work, that's about it. There's very little to be done after the long run besides just refuel and recover.
Do you so I take all my showers are cold.
Oh, you
I
do?
the
I do the ice bath, I have an ice barrel.
Do you?
Yeah.
So how many times a week do you do that?
Um So, there's it's tough because you're not supposed to do, like, the ice baths right after you lift or right after you run. So, a lot of times with my schedule, I the only time I would really have, um, time to do it would be, like, right after my lift or right after my run before I have to leave for work. So, I try to I'll mo like, on, like, a Sunday when I have nothing, I make a complete rest day, I'll do it definitely on that day, and I'll try if I have time throughout the week where it's not like I'm going to the gym or I'm running and then right into the ice barrel because the studies have shown that'll actually stunt any gains that you just made in the gym or on your run. So I'd rather not, but it all depends on my schedule for the day. So like recommended is weekly. You should at least have 8 to I think 12 minutes total in an ice bath the benefits are really good. I feel great when I get out of it. Honestly, like more mentally than physically, I feel like those ice baths are the dopamine, you have, like, energy as if you just downed 4 cups of coffee, like, it's crazy, and what everything that you see people say on, like, social media about it is true.
I think that's a lot of why I do it too, the mental and aspect of it. But so yeah, I take all my showers are cold, because I only do about 3.5, 4 minutes in the shower, and the whole thing, like I wash my hair, face, all that. Like my normal routine is just in cold water.
Yeah,
Um, with my job, as you know, that my followers know, as a fireman, like after fires, I'll take hot showers to sweat out all those toxins and keep all that stuff clean as like a steam
that
to me.
that's smart.
Um, yeah, so it keeps those toxins out. But other than that, all my showers are cold because um, I don't do prolonged cold exposure. I don't have an plunge, and I don't have a tub or anything like that for my. I have a tub, but I don't fill it up with ice or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, so I laughed the other day. I was sitting in the shower and I thought about this. I microdose my cold exposure.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I'll do, every shower leads up to, a total of about 15, 18 minutes a week, um, for exposure. And um, I have heard the studies that talk about not having repeated overlong exposure. I will tell you, as Michelle, she is a double board certified dietitian. She did say that when people talk about the brown fat development, like that's actually not a real thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are like, oh, "I'm getting my brown fat," and I'm like, "That doesn't even exist." Um, I'm like, you're recovering your muscles, but I think the biggest thing is like the shock of what it does to your body, and I think I'm a huge proponent of being one with everything, like the earth and everything around you. So when I like the water to hit the head and go down the body, because I think everything starts with your brain. Obviously, that's where your vital function of everything goes to. When you're bleeding out, everything's in a shunt to get to oxygen to your brain. Okay,
Yep.
so everything starts here. So that's why I like the cold showers, is because it starts with the brain and works its way down. So to me, that's one of my most optimized levels of recovery. And I was curious, yeah, if you used cold, because there's a lot of people that pick my brain about cold exposure and stuff like that. I don't do a sauna. One, it's because I don't have a sauna around that I go to. But I've thought about kind of dipping into sauna, but when it comes to like water wise, it's straight cold. I don't contrast or anything like that. But they say sauna is great, and I think a lot of it too is I'm going to start dipping into hot yoga. Um,
Yeah. Yoga's
is
great too.
to not only up that mobility but get that heat exposure, and I heard a lot of benefits about that. Do you do
Yeah.
yoga?
I do yoga moves, but I'm not in any yoga class, but I actually took a yoga class in college, and yeah, it was a humbling experience for sure. It's great, really. I would love to get back into it.
That's awesome. Well, man, I really appreciate all the time that you've taken and we've gotten into. We covered a lot, man. Where can people find you on social media?
On Instagram mainly, Dranky Fades, DrankyFades, and hoping to get more into YouTube in the near future. But for now, hit me up on IG.
Awesome. When I
Thanks
post
for
this
having me, bro.
on the story, I'll put your socials out there. But have a great one, man. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Thank you for taking this time, dude. And let's keep getting after it. And as we say here, just keep ripping the ceiling off, brother.
Of course, bro. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. See ya.
See you later.